Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever, and rich, with a comfortable home and happy disposition, seemed to unite some of the best blessings of existence, and had lived nearly 21 years in the world with very little to distress or vex her. How could Martha Finley's classic work in a modern style? Modern-day versions of her novels don't really get a whole lot of attention. If you were going to do it, you would have to have a really good idea. Enter Pemberley Digital. If you hadn't heard of Emma Approved, then surely you've heard of the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, right? Basically, the YouTube channel will take stories like these and informalize it into a vlog format, and dang, it really works! The Lizzie Bennet Diaries leans a bit too far into the raunchy humor territory sometimes for my tastes, but to be fair, a modern-day adaptation of Pride and Prejudice would absolutely have that kind of tone, so fair is fair. Emma Approved, however? Why waste time trying to explain it now? I've got an entire retrospective to fill. My first retrospective!
And quite possibly the last.
So, Pemberley Digital has done adaptations of Pride and Prejudice and Emma, the Lizzie Bennet Diaries and Emma Approved, respectively. And if you look at their playlists tab, they've also done Little Women, Sanditon, and Frankenstein. Whoa! Their last post was 6 years ago with the final episode of the Emma Approved revival, a sequel that they needed crowdfunding for but failed to advertise that fact effectively, so the revival never got past a handful of episodes. We'll talk more about that later. So, Emma Approved is a total of 72 mini-episodes long, all ranging from approximately 4 to 9 minutes apiece. They took the major story beats from the book and put them into a 21st century small life coaching business setting, and it works like a charm. Each set of episodes is kind of loosely separated by plot point, so we'll take each one in turn. So to start the series off, we're introduced to Emma Woodhouse, Alex Knightley, and Annie Taylor. Annie is getting married to bakery chain CEO Ryan Weston, and Emma is over the moon to plan her best friend's wedding, as well as take credit for her 20th straight matchup in her time as a life coach. However, Annie calls with bad news. She wants to cancel the wedding. Now, while Alex advises her to go along with what Annie wants and cancel the wedding, Emma simply won't do it. Her motivations are both genuine care for her friend's happiness and an egotistical desperation to not have a perfect matchmaking record be ruined. While all this is happening, Emma is convinced by Alex to hire an assistant. Harriet Smith is added to the team, and Emma wastes no time in getting Harriet on board with her schemes. Through their investigating, they find out that Ryan Weston's stepbrother, Frank Churchill, a wealthy CEO himself, never RSVP'd for the wedding, so she realizes that Annie must not be feeling welcomed by Ryan's family. When leaving mass voicemails and bribing his secretary does not work, Emma decides to write her own letter from Frank for Annie to receive, and as she suspects, that does the trick. Though Alex does not approve of her methods, he reassures her that he'll always be there. High off of her last triumph, Emma wants to make another match happen, and quick. Harriet's new office crush on the IT guy, Bobby Martin, would have worked, but it's not quite what Emma had in mind for her new friend. So she steps in a way only Emma Woodhouse ever could or would. She takes on Senator James Elton as her new client, and not so subtly hints that Harriet should set her cap at him instead. Harriet, being Harriet, takes this to heart. Unfortunately, James has more of a thing for Emma, and this all comes to a head when he asks her to be his campaign partner and date. She flatly refuses, and James storms off. Emma's perfect record is broken, and as is Harriet's spirit. But Alex, as always, is there to keep them both from giving up. Broken and confused after her first real failure, Emma is just not herself right now. This changes when her sister Izzy visits. Immediately it's obvious to Emma that something isn't right, and through an aggressive period of trying to get her sister to admit that she's not happy, it finally comes out. Izzy isn't feeling listened to or prioritized by her husband, Alex's brother, John Knightley. Everything he does is in service of his monetary plan, even down to where they go on vacation. For context, it's the same campground in Joshua Tree every year. When John gets angry at Izzy for trying to make her voice heard by surprising him with a different vacation, per Emma's advice, it seems as if Emma has failed someone she cares about yet again. But that's not the case this time. Izzy comes back and thanks her for what she's done to help. She and John decide that they would use their vacation money to college shop so that Izzy can finish her architecture degree. As they transition into the next season, Maddie Bates is added to the cast. She's a financial planner with clients that are more likely to pay her in favors than with money, but she never seems to mind. Emma doesn't really care for her company just yet, but Alex's insistence keeps her at the very least genteel and civil. James Elton makes an unprompted re-entry into Emma and Harriet's lives, and this time he's brought someone with him. Caroline Lee, a crossover character from the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, is James's fiancée, and they want Emma approved to plan the wedding. Emma is vehemently against this, but Alex reminds her that they really need the money, and hence she has no choice. As you can expect, the whole thing's a total nightmare for everyone involved, but they make it through with their sanity intact. At the 11th hour, right before the event is going to happen, James catches everyone off guard by purposefully snubbing Harriet and kicking her off the seating chart. Alex overhears this and insists that she comes as his +1. This will be important later. This is where things begin to change a bit in the Emma-approved business. Emma, still high off of the last event she planned, wants to shift the focus of the brand into event coordinating. Frank Churchill, who has become quite the regular in the Emma-approved offices, suggests throwing a bachelor auction to benefit charity. Emma eagerly accepts and forces Alex and Jane Fairfax, who Emma has begrudgingly given a job in the company to manage the charity side of the business, to take part. At the last second, however, Frank backs out due to a business summons, much to Emma's dismay, Jane's supposed indifference, and Alex's secret relief. Annie Weston is having a baby, and Emma is determined to throw her best friend the most wonderful baby shower ever. She's also determined to put together a prestigious charity event at a celebrity restaurant named Box Hill. Frank is very excited about the idea. All of Emma's closest friends are worried about her taking on such a workload all at once, and Emma is insistent that she can do it all. To the shock of absolutely no one, she can't. She ends up pushing most of the baby shower planning onto Harriet without even realizing it, and on the day of, she spends the entire afternoon arguing on the phone with the manager of a rival restaurant instead of celebrating her friend with the others. Annie is upset, and Alex is disappointed. At first glance, you would think the Box Hill event would have gone much better, but that day ruined everything for Emma. Her public mockery of Maddie Bates's jams in front of all the guests was the strike too far for Jane, who leaves the company. And for Alex, who had stood by Emma's side through everything. He can't enable her in this. He also leaves the company, and Emma breaks down, begging Harriet not to leave too. Emma is just about done with everything going wrong. She wants to quit, but Harriet shuts that idea down immediately. With her friend sharing her confidence, Emma decides to work on making everything right. She apologizes to Maddie Bates, who not only accepts the gesture, but also offers to take care of the company finances in Alex's absence. She reconciles with Annie, who tells her that Frank Churchill and Jane Fairfax were a couple the whole time he was flirting and spending time with her. They're not together anymore, but Frank shows his initiative to try and win his ex back. Last of all, Alex comes back. He, like most everyone else, thought that Emma had feelings for Frank. She flatly denies this, giving him hope he never thought he would have. He confesses his own love for Emma, who has realized by now that Alex is who she really wants to be with. The last thing she needs to put right is her meddling in Harriet's love life. With Emma's blessing, Harriet gives up her crush on Alex and finally asks out Bobby Martin, and he says yes. Emma Woodhouse could not be more perfectly portrayed than she was by Joanna Sotomura. Emma is a character you're supposed to like, but also really dislike. That addictive discomfort is what makes an Emma adaptation good, and they nailed it on the head. Being a lifestyle coach is a good story vessel to get things moving.
So I run the matchmaking lifestyle division of the developing Highbury Partners Lifestyle Group. I know, complicated. But in 9 words, I make your life better, and I never fail.
I would like to know how to be more like you.
Of course you do.
All of the characters are transferred into this world perfectly. All but one, Jane Fairfax. They really dropped the ball on Jane's character, and as a natural conclusion, her relationship with Frank is tainted by this too. Tyra Collard does her best with what's given to her, so this isn't an acting problem. Jane Fairfax in this adaptation is a no-nonsense social justice warrior who comes to work with Emma approved when Emma decides to branch out the business into event planning. I really think they missed the point. Jane is guarded and shy to a fault. She's talented and beautiful, but very clearly hiding something. Long story short, her engagement to Frank is revealed, and she chooses to stay with him, despite the fact that his true character being revealed to all his friends was not a positive moment in their lives. I personally feel like it's a bit of a cautionary tale, and almost a dig against Jane because of how she puts up with Frank flirting with Emma, mocking her behind her back, and spreading horrible rumors about her, and then just stays with him in the end, though he is going to be a terrible husband. She's that love blind. Making her, honestly, a Mary Sue philanthropist who didn't do a thing wrong in the whole 72-episode runtime kind of misses the point of her starry-eyed naivety about Frank Churchill that ended up getting her stuck with him in the end. She's the one who wanted to hide their relationship in this adaptation. She's the one who broke up with him in this adaptation, and she's never brought back into the show after the episode where she leaves the company. Even the reason she breaks up with Frank is philanthropist in nature. His company invested in some kind of project that would have taken clean water from people, so she broke up with him. Giving her character an interest in these causes isn't bad, but in the process they've stripped away almost everything that made Jane Fairfax in the first place, hence why she is one of the least interesting in the otherwise stellar cast of characters. Harriet is another performance that I want to highlight. Diane Houghton plays her, the perky, sugar-sweet assistant that Emma didn't want but found that she couldn't live without. All the mistakes they made with Jane's character were avoided with Harriet. Harriet Smith has always been quite the unique character, so easily led, but with an undoubtable mind of her own that lives underneath her desire to please. Harriet takes a liking to Bobby Martin, but lets Emma talk her out of accepting him. She then proceeds to convince her that James Elton is into her, which gets Harriet into an excited frenzy, despite the fact that James wasn't really the type of man she'd normally be interested in. Of course, he breaks her heart, and Emma breaks his. Her momentary crush on Alex is a distraction from the fact that she never really stopped liking Bobby. In the end, she ends up with him. Harriet's strength was always in the way she saw the world, and her flaw was being too easily influenced by others. This adaptation replicates that perfectly. Other spot-on character adaptations in this include Frank Churchill.
I don't know what to tell you. Maybe I dreamed it. You'd be surprised how often Emma Approved and all its inhabitants have entered my dreams.
Bringing back Caroline Lee to fill in Mrs. Elton's spot, that was just genius.
Well, I hate to waste your time again, but I already have a venue in mind.
You do? Which one?
The Hotel Landau. Oh, it is the perfect mix of romance and sophistication.
And of course, Maddie Bates.
I told Mama, you know, she's a little deaf, Mama!
So the last thing Pemberley Digital ever tried to do was a revival of Emma Approved, aptly called the Emma Approved Revival. They had a different vibe going for this season than the first. They changed sets, and they altered the format of the show to match more of an office style. The idea was that people would support the show on Patreon, and in return, they would get to vote on new clients for Emma to take on. Unfortunately, the importance of the funding part was not effectively marketed, and the money was just not there to keep going. The reception to it was positive, but this is where my personal opinion seems to split from the comments sections. I really did not like this revival. Having Mr. Collins and other Jane Austen-era characters included was a fun idea. Seeing where the characters all are 5 years later is always an interesting thing to get into, and I could have even gotten used to the office-style filmmaking if I had more time to sit with it. This revival falls into a sequel writing trap that a lot of sequels fall into. It's not impossible to make a sequel that comes off of the end of a more self-contained style story. It's just significantly harder. Everything ends so nicely at the end of Emma Approved. Emma and Knightley are together, the company is doing great, Harriet and Bobby are happy, and Emma's confidence is higher than ever. Enter the sequel, where Emma has lost all her confidence again, lost her offices, Harriet and Bobby had a tumultuous breakup. The only thing that's still good is that Alex is still around. Emma regaining her sense of self was the whole point of the climax of the first season. While Harriet and Bobby breaking up may have made sense to include to create more tension, it doesn't change the fact that it's not fun to watch when we got so excited to see them get together in the first place. We hardly got to see them be happy. I personally feel like the magic didn't transfer over from the first season to the second, but I still feel bad that they didn't get to expand it further like they wanted. They looked like they were brimming with ideas. Pemberley Digital stopped production on new projects. Their business model was not bringing forth enough results to keep things going, and the Emma Approved revival is now on hiatus. Permanently. Hopefully, this tiny little retrospective inspired you to check out their old stuff and give them some love. I'm so happy! Over the course of writing this, though, I realized that I'm not really good at writing retrospectives, so I don't know if I'll do one again for a while. Back to the regular video format! So with that, I'll leave you to give your likes, leave your comments, and subscribe if you will, and I will see you next time.